is that I wouldn't be our in-house historian if I didn't bring up like how these things have impacted us in the past as Black and brown communities and how it's still showing up right now, because we can't, in the spirit of Sankofa, we can't talk about, how it's impacting us now if we don't understand first how it showed up in the past.
For all the liberated souls and the ones in the back, welcome to Off The Syllabus, the Liberated Dreams podcast. I'm Dev, aka Devski, and that's...
Hey y'all, hey, I'm Miss Kim.
And we're back for another one. We're back for a good one. We're back to see what y'all got going on. But it's going to be a good conversation. We're going to be talking about civics, civic engagement, civic education as it pertains to youth. Kim, kick us off with what we got going on.
Well, I felt, Devski, that this would be a good topic for us to dive into, because this being one of my passion points in areas of expertise, I always jump at the opportunity of just being able to speak more about civic engagement as it relates to the youth development space. I have a lot of experience just helping young people with figuring out what agency looks like, with identifying community issues along with solutions, and just learning how broad that topic is. Oftentimes, a lot of people think that civic engagement is just tied to voting, which that is a huge piece of it, but it goes so much beyond that. And I'm excited for us to touch on what that looks like in the work that we've done, even just how personally it has impacted us, and to give our listeners, our audience, some pointers of if they have this same interest or area of passion, how they can improve on giving their young people the platform to lead us into the future.
Civic engagement is one of those things that we as Black people had to fight to be a part of. Obviously, throughout history, for all my history buffs out there, y'all know the stories, right? Voter suppression, literacy tests, all these different things in order for us to just participate. I think it's critical, and we talked about this on one of the other shows when I was talking about the literary institutions, literary societies, where we kind of use those societies to then talk about politics. Who are we going to put in office? Who are we going to do that? And who are we not going to put in office? Who is for us? What do we need? What are our demands? All these different things. And I think that we as Black people need to get back to that. And we need to also have those same conversations with our kids in mind and at the table. So we used to have the kid table and the adult table. I think now we're in too much of a fragile time to continue to separate the tables, especially when we're talking about politics. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Thanks.
As a youth practitioner, I'm always excited to introduce our kids to new ways of thoughts, new trains of thoughts. So I'm interested to see the direction you take us. Before we get into any of that, or I would say however, because a wise man once told me when you say but, you negate everything that you said prior to that. So, however, before we get into that, I want to go into segment 1, dropping gems, the life learner. And Cam is going to take us through a story around when she actually participated in civic engagement and won. Where the clapping at? Yeah. Cam was out here whining and dining, using taxpayer dollars to go and eat. And I'm just playing. She ain't taking no lobbies or anything like that. She was fighting for our kids in the school board, but that ain't my story to tell. So go ahead, Cam, do your thing.
So that explains partially why this is such a important topic to me because, as Dev just mentioned, I have lived experience in the space of being an elected official. And it's funny how this came about because honestly, I stumbled into it by accident. Like, this was not premeditated. It definitely was not planned. I did not have aspirations at all of wanting to explore an experience like this because, to be quite frank, I didn't at that time, prior to my election, have much faith in our local government just as a whole. I was just very skeptical, side-eyed, and wasn't even really an active voter. I was registered and I would participate like here and there, but I was totally inconsistent and, for lack of better words, kind of just checked out in terms of how powerful our influence really is in these spaces. So what had happened is just starting out as a youth development practitioner leader, I started noticing, when it came to education system, the huge gaps that exist that we've talked about probably in every single episode that we've recorded up until now. Just the Black and brown disparities when it came to how those students tested. When you look at the state report cards, it's pretty across the board. It doesn't matter what community it is. Our kids are underperforming. It's a direct reflection of their comprehension when it comes to different topics like math, science, areas that are literally directed to life skills that they need to be able to obtain someday once they, transition into adulthood. The discipline rates are just insane when it comes to how our Black and brown children are being punitively punished. The conditions of the schools, depending on what side of town it's in, what demographics they're serving, there's huge gaps. It's just all across the board. And so, as a mentor and through helping out my mentees with developing their post-secondary plans, that led me to advocate on their behalf oftentimes when it came to disagreements that they had with their different staff that they had classes with, like different teachers. And I was learning through my mentees. They were telling me this themselves, like I wasn't fishing for the information. They would complain nonstop about their counselors not truly supporting them, which was like, I was gagged because I'm like, hold on, their professional title literally is guidance counselor. And this is no shade to the counselors out there if you're listening, because I know that there is so many of you that take this work very seriously and don't play about your kids. But unfortunately, the same can be said on the other end of the spectrum. There's a lot of lazy folks that are in those roles. I'm just going to call it what it is. So just hearing them complain so much about how they were having a lack of support with their counselors, I just started asking all these questions, like, what is going on? Like, how come they're not responding to you? How come I got to jump in and do group emails and then they barely want to answer me? And how come we're having to go around the world and back just to get you your basic needs as a student met? Like, I'm not understanding. And then on top of that, they're complaining about just the school experience, how they don't feel seen, heard, they didn't feel like they belong, like they were welcome in these environments. And I'm just like, okay, like, this is a problem. So I'm making at this point just like a list of just all their complaints so I can try to stand in that gap. And the questions became two-sided. So then as my mentees were complaining to me and just wanting help, they're just like, Miss Cam, like, how come they set these rules up over here? Or how come the school code of conduct says that this is the consequence if I wear a hoodie at the school, or if we get into a fight, like how come we get kicked out and it's such a short string that we're on, we're held to a different standard, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, you know what, that's a good question. Like, who is making these decisions? So like, they're asking me, and so I'm asking around. And so through conversation and just research, I saw like, oh, this is our school board who is creating these conditions and these atmospheres. And this is a reflection of them not necessarily holding our superintendent accountable to the effect that they should. So I'm like, like, nah, this is a problem. Somebody got to say something about it, and I'm going to be the one to do it. Like, this is whack. So, I mean, hey, what's good? What sense do it make pointing out a problem if you're not going to be a part of the solution? Like, I'm very action oriented, and I don't have time just to be sitting up here bumping my gums and talking. Like, what we going to do about it? So the timing of it was just so ironic. This was 2020 at the end of the year, going into 2021. I got so fed up with continuously hearing this experience from my kids that I'm like, okay, it's a school board that's doing all this. And who's on the school board? So I'm looking up on the district's website. In my area, we only have 7 representatives, and it is reflective of like how our district is broken down into, it's called sub-districts. So it's pretty much like wherever your neighborhood is, this is like your zone of the schools that you're supposed to be responsible for, whatever the case may be. And I'm looking, and there was only one person of color who was on the board. And to me, it seemed like the folks who were in those seats were very detached. They were all white men and women, of course. But not only that, like just generationally, they was just super old. And I'm like, what skin in the game do they have in this position? And how aware are they of the true needs of the entire community, or just even the educators, like just the staff? Like, I highly doubt that they are walking through the schools and they're witnessing what's going on. They're doing their research. Like, just the math ain't mathing. So then from there, I started researching the people who are on the board. For my representative who was on the school board, it was called Subdistrict C. And this man, I'm not going to put him out there, but people, if you want to Google, you'll see it, because I got receipts. It's out here if you Google me. But and I mean that, respectfully. But so my representative for the school board that lived in my sub-district was also the board president, and had been the board president for like 10 years. And I'm like, hold up. I never knew this man existed. I've never heard of this name. I've never received a piece of literature from him in the mail. I don't see him on social media. Like, huh? Who is this man? So I especially started honing in on him. And after seeing his career, or whatever, like he had done during his presence on the board, I was not impressed. So I said, you know what? I'm about to run. Like, they need me on this board. Like, they need some fresh blood. They need some black faces. They need a black woman. They need somebody who is in the field. And also simultaneously, I'm a mama, and my son was a product of that district. So I'm like, you know what? I'm about to shake stuff up. Like, let's see, what does this process go like? What does this look like? So I found the election guide, and it, was very lengthy. It talked about like what you need to do. And at this point, after I've done like all this research, I found out that the first step was I needed to get a certain amount of signatures, so that way I could even get my name on the ballot. So that could qualify me as an actual candidate. And so the timing of this again was a close of 2020. So I literally had about 2 weeks to get like these signatures or whatever. That needed to get turned into our county clerk's office. So I was a little intimidated by that. I'm like, ooh, like, okay, just my luck. I'm last minute per usual. So I don't know. I might need to just...
And how many signatures?
Oh my goodness. I cannot remember. Maybe like 50. Don't quote me on that. It seemed like this was like 20 years ago at this point. So much time has transpired. So it wasn't that many, but it was still enough to where it was intimidating, because again, I didn't give myself much time because I didn't really think this thoroughly all the way out. So I remember getting in my head and being like, okay, like this might be a bit much. Like, I think I'm biting off more than I could chew. I remember talking to a good colleague at the time that used to work for the district in the administrative role. And I just asked her opinion, like, what you think? Like, should I run? Like, and she was like, absolutely. She was just like, first of all, just worry about the first leg of the race of getting the signatures. If you can at least get those signatures and that's your sign, you're going in the right direction. Like from there, then you can start getting your platform together, your campaign and whatnot. So long story short, I obviously got the signatures, and I remember I almost got double the amount because I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have any issues. I had got advice from other people that had ran for local government here that it can get a little complex when you're trying to get the signatures, because if you capture a signature for someone who does not live in your subdistrict, they automatically throw that out. So that can't go towards your amount. And sometimes your opponents can play a little dirty and they can nitpick because they're trying to knock you out of the race. And so there have been instances in the past where that had actually happened. And they were so critical at the county clerk's office, or they are so critical of all the details. Like if your paperwork is not properly binded, like if it's like stapled versus it being like paperclip, if your opponent want to be petty, they can point that out to the county clerk office and that can get thrown out, and then you won't be able to move forward with the process. So I had to make sure all of my ducks were in order, so couldn't be no room for error. So I obviously passed that stage. And then at this point now, this was in December, I had met that deadline. So then in January, it was on and popping because the local election was going to be taking place in April. So I only had 3 months to get all this together. So not only am I inexperienced when it comes to local politics, I'm going up against an incumbent who is a board president who has a ton of tenure, a lot of weight per se, like in this circle. So it gets even more intimidating. Like, ooh, like, again, I'm in my head, like, am I biting off more than I can chew? So I had to hit the ground running because now I have to make up for lost time, because now people are going to be like, who is this girl that's trying to get my vote? Like, what's going on? So at this point, I had enough people in the community that supported me. But when it comes to voting, it's not about friendships and who you know. It's about exactly, or the people who's actually going to show up to the polls. So
TTG, trained to go.
Yeah. So it just taught me so much about like how the campaign process goes, because I had to have my platform together. I was very bold about the things that I was concerned about just through the gate. I was not biting my tongue, and I had to do door knocking, like pretty much like all my spare time, and at phone banking. So I had to like literally connect with my voters, with the constituents, to like basically like prove to them that I was the best candidate. And so I was met with a lot of apprehension because of people just seeing like, who is this young Black girl? I had people literally telling me as I'm knocking on their doors, like, and I'm asking, like, can I count on you for my vote? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that's cool. Like, can you explain why? Well, once you've earned, when you've had I forgot. One woman basically told me in so many words that, like, well, once you've had a little bit more experience, once you've earned it, like that's when you'll be ready. And I'm thinking, like, at this time, I've already been in the field for at least a decade. So like, you know nothing about me, but you're just going off appearance and bias and just assuming that like, I'm going to fumble this responsibility. Okay, ma'am, you have a nice day. God bless you. I had to learn how to pick my battles and how to move on. But I had people trying to argue with me about critical race theory, because that was a hot topic at the time. And I pretty much learned that like it's a strategy to it. Any home that I saw that had American flags, no shade to the patriotic folks out there, I learned that was going to be my biggest fight. Those were normally conservatives, and they was going to try to turn me every way but loose. Like I had folks that were literally just trying to debate me up and down. So I had to start skipping those homes because I'm like, nope, not today, Satan. So long story short, I did all of that. And when it came to election time and election night, when they announced the votes, my opponent was ahead of me by like a very, very small margin. Very, very small. It was so close. At one point, it was fluctuating. I'm in the forefront, then he's in the forefront, flip-flop. And so I think they called it that night at about like 10 o'clock or so. And I remember sitting in the room with my family, the living room, and we're looking at the count, and they announced he was a winner. And the margin was like less than like 5% or something like that. And so I was getting assistance with running my campaign. And I remember my campaign manager calling me and explaining to me, I'm thinking he's calling me to be like, oh, good run. It was nice working with you, whatever the case may be. And so he explained to me, he was like, FYI, just so you know, your margin is so close that they can't call it yet. So they have to wait for voting for the mail-in ballots to fully come in, and then they'll be able to count all the votes officially, and that's going to be an additional 2 weeks. So I'm like, oh Lord. I was like, I just want this to be over. Like, I'm so stressed by now. And so those 2 weeks was the most agonizing, longest 2 weeks of my life. Everybody and their mama hit me up, like, what's going on? What's going on? You know, like, just please, just I appreciate your support, but leave me alone. Like, I'm just trying to just keep my eye on the prize. And so once the 2 weeks was up and they made the final announcement, I was announced as the winner. And Dev, can you guess how many votes I won by? Just if you had to just guess a number.
Now I can't. I'm gonna throw 500.
That's your final answer?
It's high. It's higher.
It's lower.
Oh, then it had to be a tight margin, like 50.
I won by 9 votes.
I was gonna say 10, but I okay.
So yeah, so this was another close margin.
Them was his arch nemesis. Them 9 people.
Well, what we learned in those 2 weeks of waiting was that what had him in the lead was in our area here. He had more votes from our county, which is like the outskirts. And so it's a lot more conservatives that live out like in our outskirts, because that's considered kind of like country area, kind of, for lack of better terms. So, but I didn't even think about, that area. I did knock on any doors out there. And if I did, I really don't think it would have made much of a difference. They probably wouldn't open the door. But I ended up winning by 9 votes. And what was just so mind-blowing about all of that was how that literally made me a testament to every vote counts. And if he wanted to, he still could have fought it, because again, the margin was so close. He could have asked for a recount. He could have been like, I'm not going to accept this. But thankfully he knew to bow out gracefully, because that speaks a lot about your support system, that it shouldn't have been that close of a margin anyway, like for the time frame that you had already been in that role. And this is not to take away from his service, because regardless to whether I agree with what he did or did not do in that role, he still volunteered his time for, over a decade. So kudos to him for that. That's about all I got, but kudos to him for at least for that. But so that was just cool to not only experience for myself, but to have my son be a part of that too. Like, he helped with the door knocking. All my friends and family jumped in. And I think that just for the Black community here, it was just an exciting time, because we had so many Black women that were running for public office at the time. A majority of us got voted in, but it really was like a reawakening for us, because that allowed us to have a better understanding of what these local positions do. And my teens that I were mentoring was very locked in and was watching me like a hawk and started asking for updates, questions, all of that. I then from there, once I got on the board, started bringing other elected officials to programming so they could engage with my teens and just start conversations. And so that was the beginning of me learning how to merge these two worlds together and seeing that, our young people, they ready and they can understand and they have opinions. We just have to bring the information to them. We have to simplify it. And we just have to give that opportunity. We just have to give that access. That's all they need. And they'll show up with pretty much any challenge that we put before them.
That's dope. And I think even for my day job, in that conference that they do every year on the Hill, teens are so ready to get involved in whatever way they see fit, in whatever way is presented to them. So teens will lobby.
Oh, absolutely.
If they can lobby for what they truly believe in. Teens will write letters if they're writing letters for something they truly believe in. Teens will show up to Capitol Hill and meet with representatives.
Oh, my teens showed up to the school board meetings, and not only showed up to the meetings, they hopped on the mic during public opinion and gave their 2 cents. And that was not prompted by me, but because they saw representation, because they understood and saw the power of advocacy and agency and using their voice, they just took that and ran with it.
And I think the opportunity and the representation is what's key. We don't have to always dictate activity by prompt. We can just dictate activity by being active. And I think that is a core piece of what youth development, what this community that we're building, that's what all of this is about. It's just being active and having the conversation. So then our kids benefit from the activity that we're creating. And that's why white kids are consistently growing up as legacy politicians, because the activity in white communities are always have a parallel positioning to politics. Mm-hmm. Because white people, white men in particular, but white women too, they have kids on the campaign trail. They take kids on the campaign trail. So what you experienced on the micro level, the local level of politics, is what a lot of white kids experience on the national level of politics. And what kid don't want to be there or walk in the footsteps of who they believe their hero is, right? Who they believe their most confidant is, or their prized possession or prized relation, or whatever the case. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't they go directly into politics if that is something that was put forth in front of them? So that's dope. That's dope. That's dope. I have in Rochester, when I was there, I was approached to run for school board a few times. And I was approached by, I don't know if he's sitting on the city council still, but somebody that was sitting on the city council to run for city council.
Why didn't you?
Because of I wasn't there yet. Now, I do that. I do it. I'll do it now. But I always said in my mind, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. And I'm also keen to the politics of politics. Yeah. So if in the for the city council one in particular, not necessarily the school board, but for the city council one in particular, he came to me directly. Like we have a beer brewery. Ooh, that just tore my brain up.
You almost took you out of there, didn't it?
Yeah, it almost took me out.
Take you through there.
That's what I was trying to do. It just took me through there. But like we met up. He reached out randomly. We met at the brewery. He paid for everything, and he was like, "Yo,
oh yeah." He was trying to endorse you,
like whatever you need.
He was trying to put you on.
Whatever you need, I will. That's exactly what he said. He was like, "Yo, I will endorse you and I will help you, but we will have to decide." I mean, like he was saying, we would have to decide within the next month.
Yeah.
In order to start the campaign trail, because the next, I think, citywide was in the next, obviously, midterms, which was 2 years out. So it was like, yeah, we decide now and then we start to position everything. But I'm like, in my mind, one, that wasn't what was on the agenda at that point in time. But then secondly, you got to be careful with those type of endorsements. It was a white man too. You have to be careful with those type of endorsements because you don't know what's on the other side of.
You don't know what you're going to be indebted to. And that was another thing. I'll let you get your thought out and then I'll add to that. But that is a thing.
Oh, no, that was it. I am Black national. Okay. Which we'll get to that in a second. So I understand the game and I play the game. I don't let the game play me.
And then that's the other side of the coin that I was unaware of, but had to learn very quickly was, okay, these people that are coming out of the woodworks now that are overly supportive and who are offering endorsements, what truly is it going to cost? And what are you expecting to get out of it? And it was some folks where I was like, absolutely not. Like, no. Like when I just see you in normal community spaces, you have walked right past me. I don't even get a salutation, no nothing. But now that you see political gain and you want proximity, now all of a sudden I'm on your radar. Like, no, thank you. That's not the type of endorsement that I'm looking for. And I had a older politician reach out to me, and I'll keep it kind of vague, just for confidentiality purposes. But we had a very good heart to heart, and he was just like, just so you know, school board, you wouldn't think it's political because technically of course it's political, but he was just like, it's nonpartisan. But he was just like, this is probably one of the most corrupt systems in our area. They play very dirty when it comes to school board. So you're going to have to keep your head on a swivel. And once I got in that arena, it became very apparent to me, like, oh, this don't got nothing to do with the kids. Like, this is all about political power, positioning, just how the funding was being allocated and the needs that were being brushed under the rug. And it was just so many things that it was maddening for me. So that's part of the reason why my political career was so short-lived too. I went through all of that to then a year and a half into the role. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is quite for me. I feel like I can make more noise, or just I have more power working outside of the system versus being inside of it. So I'm not here for the clout, and I'm not here to occupy a seat just for the sake of doing it. I'm going to pass the baton now to the next person who can take this leg of the race. And at least I was able to disrupt the system and to rearrange some things. And I am proud of that. I've done my purpose. But yeah, the endorsements, that's a thing. You have to be very careful who you take money from, and you need it too, because the expenses that go into trying to send the mailers and the yard signs and things of that nature adds up very, very quickly. So thankfully, the endorsements that I received from some of the different local trade groups and things like that were able to help me with those things because I needed it. Because again, I only did this in the span of a few months, which is insane. No one typically, like you said, the conversation that you were approached with, Dev, was like 2 years prior to the election cycle. And that's normally about the average time that it takes to really be organized with your strategy and to get your funding up and things of that nature when you're trying to get into these different spaces. And I didn't have that. I didn't do that. So I had to be very, very discerning throughout the process.
Yeah. Well, more power to you, to Young Cam, for doing that. But it's also okay to say, yeah, this ain't for me. Because again, just because you can do it don't mean you're supposed to do it. If you don't take nothing else away from this part of the conversation, just because you can do something does not mean that you should actually go and do it. You can have the capacity, but everybody not cut from that same cloth. And to go into politics or anything that is politics adjacent, law enforcement, anything that's civic engagement, anything that's lobbying, you have to play dirty. You will have to play, or you have to do that. Like when you said, asking for the recount, or if it's binded through staples and not paper clips and it's supposed to be paper clips. That is why you see like the smear campaigns, and you try to, you take the dirt and you put it out there because the dirt is supposed to, stop something, or, you know what I'm saying? Or like the double voting. I know Trump used that for, people for his first loss, where he was saying people was voting in one state and then going to another state and voting again. And there was all of that stuff, right? So yeah, I would say if I don't take anything else from that story, just because you can do something don't mean you should do it. And if you do decide to do it, you are no lesser than a man or woman or non-binary if you say, I'm good.
And
I'm gonna finish out this term. I'm good, or I'm just gonna walk away because I don't got time for none of this.
in addition to that, you have to make sure that you are consistently checking in with yourself and your mental health as well, because that's a whole nother layer that goes into it, because you can potentially get smeared on your campaign, which thankfully I didn't really have that, but I've seen it happen with other people here locally where it's gotten real ugly. And then just once you get in that space, and the adversity don't stop, and it's even more intense. And if you're amongst a group that is, one, not diverse, and even though it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but you can clearly see where people stand in the political spectrum, you feel almost helpless in some instances, because you can see the alliances that are there, you can see the sidebars that are taking place, you can see the games that are played, and so it makes you question just your impact in that space, because your intentions of what you wanted to achieve are being halted, and you have barrier after barrier that are keeping you from being able to live up to what you told the community that you were going to fight for. And people don't always know the full scheme of things. We just look at, the perceptive, just what's in front of us, or we go a lot off of hearsay, but we don't know the conversations that are being had behind the scenes. We don't know about the adversity. We don't understand how the blockages, racism, all the things, how the system is corrupt. So then we're quick to put our opinion on people when we don't understand what they're up against. And then we play into the system unconsciously when we feed false narratives or negativity about that person, like, oh, they said they was going to do this, but they ain't And it's like, that doesn't mean that the person is not trying. Like, again, it's a ugly belly of the beast that they are having to navigate through. And that's not for the faint. They're not for the faint of heart.
And some people make careers out of that.
God bless their hearts. God bless their hearts.
That's why these white men and women are so bitter, and why our black women are so mad.
Mm-hmm.
I forget
Jasmine Crockett.
So forgive me. No, not Jasmine.
She the main one that get beat up on. Ooh, they be tearing my good sis up.
I like Jasmine. I don't really care too much about the shedding of tears of Renee Good being unalived, but
I feel like that's a culmination of just all the frustrations, because it's like, my God, like, what do y'all care about? Like, y'all never are going to do the right thing. Which there's a lot to unpack with that, but I that was my interpretation of it, because you just be like, dang, yet another instance where y'all just.
And this one of y'all.
But they got casualties too, though. Like, hey.
Oh yeah. It's the one with the bald head.
Oh, Ayanna Presley.
Yes, Ayanna. Ooh, that's my homie. She be reading them for filth every time. Ayanna, come on the show. I mean, Jasmine too.
And Jasmine running for senator now too. So
senator.
Kudos.
Oh, I hope she get that. I hope she.
And just her campaign and how she uses Trump's tropes that he tried to use to tear her down, like, just genius.
Yo, genius. Genius. I do have some words about the tears of Renee, but I know we shed our tears for ourselves, our people too.
But we've always historically held space for everybody else, even though they don't do it for us. That's been our superpower, but also like our detriment. It's been a detriment too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying.
But Ayanna, that's the homie. She's just that sharp. And I think she's an attorney too, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't recall.
But she wearing that body.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
You go, girl. Wear that body. But yeah, I think that is some good information, and to tie it back to our youth, they have to see that process
and partake in it, participate.
And partake in it. And I know we have student government and things of that nature. I won treasurer for my
fun fact.
In my senior year. Yeah, I won treasurer.
I didn't know you had a political journey too, Dev. Okay.
I did. You know what I'm saying? I was and I won without necessarily having to campaign. My face was
of course.
You know
Of
what I'm saying?
course.
I was in Atlanta when they was campaigning and stuff, and I got the phone call say, "Yeah, you the new treasurer.
Wow. You didn't even have to
We did
try.
some
You didn't
work."
have to do no
I didn't
campaigning.
even have to try. I ain't
You
even
didn't
have
even
to
have to
try,
have no
King.
platform. Just neck.
I ain't have to have no. I had a platform because I was Mr. Sports, so everybody knew who I was. I already had the follow
Right, but
base.
your platform consists of like your three main points of what you want to change, what you want to work on, your advocacy, like with the
Oh, see,
foundation.
look, you.
Like
Yeah, look, you educate me right now. I ain't need none of that. I was Mr.
that's
Sports.
my
I am
point.
Devin
That's my
England.
point. You went off
I'm Devin
popularity. Like
England. Vote.
no dig on your accomplishment, but that happens in real time too. In real time politics, that's the
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, and you know it was no better person to handle the cash. No better person. I'm just playing.
No,
And you just keep on going with it.
that is true. Good point.
Yes, yes. And I think we was probably the most active student government ever.
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying? We was three of us was track stars
mhm.
for the most part. Three of us, two of us. Um, it's so interesting because the ticket that I ran on, the one that was running for president was the only one that didn't win,
Mm.
but everybody else on that ticket won. But yeah, I had my little dibble and dabble. We had some stuff. We met with people. You know, I was in civic engagement. You know, whether I wanted to or not. You know, again, that was another situation where the system came to me and was like, "Hey,
We
we want you to
need
be our
you. We
treasurer.
need you,
We need you to be
Devin.
our treasurer. We need somebody who is frugal enough to know where the money is going."
Period. And they found it. Ooh, they found it.
And they found it, and we spent what we needed to spend, what we needed to spend it, and we put everything else back into the budget, back into the school, back into senior year. And
So you left money
we
for
used the
the
rest.
people to come behind you. Like y'all had something to
Yeah,
pass off.
actually, my senior year, you know, half of our seniors got arrested, but
That's
you know
neither
what I'm
here
saying.
nor
So
there. That's neither
we probably
a
used
little
the rest of the
bail
money in order to bail
bail
them out.
money.
Yeah,
Oh, oh wow.
yeah.
Okay.
That's a
Well,
story for
there's a
another
lot
day.
of
But we
political
actually
prisoners out here. That's a thing. So
we were political
you
prisoners.
know.
We absolutely
Mm-hmm.
was, and it's because like I said, everything is
Mm-hmm.
adjacent to law enforcement is adjacent to
Absolutely.
politics, and the politics was our resource officer was on vacation on the day of our senior prank, and we was like the you know how you got Mr. and Mrs. Congeniality,
Well,
so we were
yeah.
the class
Mm-hmm.
congeniality. So we was cool with everybody 2 grades above us and 2 grades below us. We was cool. So our school senior prank was just like spray painting the street with our graduation year and all that stuff. This night though, spray painting the building, spray painting the glass, TPing it was crazy, but it wasn't just us, it was grades lower than
What
us.
they got? How you getting in on the prank? Like this ain't got. Y'all doing too much.
We was just we talked too much, and it was fun, and it was 2 a.m. We got shut down by the cops twice. The next day, they like killed our moving up ceremony. They said they was hurt, the teachers, and the resource officer, the substitute resource officer, was like, "Pull up the paddy wagon. They going to jail for vandalism."
Oh,
Now, if it was Officer McKay, she wouldn't have did that because she knew all of us. But the resource officer kicked it into gear, so like our administrators was like moving us around. Me and one other person, we left. Like we left out the door and we just sat in my car for the day. While we watched everybody get basically
reprimanded
to the paddy wagon. No, not reprimanded. They got
but I'd put it in an eloquent way. Yeah, but
yeah, they was round regardless of that, because I was treasurer, and I think I was with the VP of the student. That was crazy. I was with the VP of student government because of the work that we did in that administration. We was able to build everybody.
The administration out. Is crazy. Like
yeah, we was good. But with
what
that,
a way to steward the dollars. Like
yeah, and as a youth, I'm telling my story as a youth. participant in civic education. You see that? You see
So that's a perfect segue to our first topic, because I wanted to ask you, when was your first like experience or memory of when you were introduced to civic engagement? So is it safe to say that that was your first time, that experience being treasured, or did you start learning about that beforehand? Because I actually started learning in middle school, and I can share about that in a second. But
yeah, nah. I think that was the first time.
So this was what you said, this was junior year again, or this is your senior year?
Senior
Okay.
year. Yeah, student government was only senior year. Yeah, that was the first time. Obviously, I knew about, because this was senior year was 2012, so Obama and everything already happened at that point, and we well into Obama, his 2 terms. We're well into that process. So, I was always aware, and my dad is a history buff, if you will. So I was always aware of the literacy test and all these different things. And we did like we had like a program government, if you will, in my SLA, Sanko for Leadership Academy, or Youth Adult Partnership. Yeah. My sister was always the president, so it was always around. I was just playing sports.
Sure.
That was my main thing. So I wasn't always around to be a part of the election.
So you had the awareness, but your first involvement, your first introduction to being involved was senior year.
Yeah, and it wasn't by way of me wanting to do it.
I was forced into it. Like you was just
I was approached to do it, but I wasn't. Again, similar to what I said about with the city councilman that approached me. It was more so like, at that moment, cool. What else I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm cool. Right. So I've always had the wherewithal to say like, yeah, I'll do it, or nah, I'm good.
Well, what's that saying? It's not what's in you, it's what's on you. So obviously people have always seen your leadership competencies. So it naturally, like, folks have tried to shoot their shot and be like, hey, you wanna come on board? So that's a good thing. Even though you may not have always been ready at the time of when the conversation was had, I think it's still a compliment to just like how you show up, because people have confidence in you and trust that like you're gonna fight for the people. You're gonna speak well on their behalf. So
yeah, fight the power.
Period.
And I made sure the money was where it's supposed to be.
So yep. So like I said with our first topic, I thought that was like a perfect like segue, because one of our resources that we have attached to this episode is a young person who is speaking about restoring youth civic engagement. And one of the biggest speaking points that he mentions is how we need to start at education earlier than high school, because traditionally that's when our young people are beginning to grasp some type of understanding of how the government works. And like he speaks to the importance of like exploring like what middle school education can look like when it comes to this topic. And when I was listening to it, I was like, you know what? Like, obviously, it's a no-brainer. Like, it makes sense. But then that made me question myself of when I had my first introduction. So that's one I wanted to ask you. And ironically, I think that I had a very rare experience for, just me and my peers at that time. It definitely was not as talked about as it is now. And obviously, like, technology has grown substantially. When I was in middle school, that was, the late 90s. I'm trying to age myself, but it was 90-ish. 99, 2000-ish, around that time frame. I'm just going to give an error. And we didn't have, the TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, where a lot of people get their information from now. So, like, if it was not a part of your normal environment or day-to-day conversations, you were kind of ignorant to it. And if your family or your immediate family were not voters, then it just was not reality for you. And that was kind of the case for me. My family necessarily didn't have active conversations about their participation in voting. I knew about the history side, kind of like how you mentioned, but I thankfully had a 7th grade social studies teacher, Miss Dunn. I will never forget, my homegirl to this day. And like she really like pulled the wool over my eyes in terms of teaching us about the United States role in world politics. And she talked about like at the time what sanctions were and explained like our relationship with other foreign countries like Cuba, the Libyas, the Haiti, the countries that normally is very one-sided. When you talk to Americans about our viewpoint, our relationship with the countries, and she did it in such an unbiased way where it gave us the agency or the autonomy to figure out, you know, our opinions of how we wanted to interpret that. But for me, it allowed me to see that the US has a history of being a bully, which obviously I knew that just from slavery and just how we
They bullying right
period. Like that's literally like what our country was founded on, was stealing and, you know, just colonizing, all of those type of things. But like just explaining like why those countries were cut off from certain resources and how we were like punishing them, Cuba, you know, like, and that was my introduction to making sure that I stayed informed on not only what's going on in our country, but outside of it, because that impacts us just as much, even though people don't realize that. And then from there, throughout high school, like I continued to like just challenge the system any way I could when conversations came up, like in history class about Civil War, and my teacher was intentionally leaving out the role that slavery played. I'm like, excuse me, pardon me. Like, you ain't gonna give it to me like that.
To be clear.
Right. Like this, yeah, it was about preserving the Union. However, but it was because the country was divided on our stance on slavery. Like we're not going to leave. We're going to address the elephant in the room, sir. That's exactly what we're going to do. So
I was just talking about that on introspective insight.
Look, the irony. There's just always correlations and connections. But yeah, so I that's another area where I'm a testament of the power of having these conversations early on with your young people, because then that really does empower them as they continue to age and mature and continue to formulate their worldview, is by knowing literally more about the world that they live in. And I was also involved in, so I wasn't an athlete like you. I was a little bit more nerdier, and I
was a nerd too.
Okay, I'll let you have that. All right. But I'm like, no, but I was like bookworm, like in a corner, like, or like reading.
Nah, I wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm just now in my reading.
Yeah, no, that was when I was really in my like.
Within the last 4 years.
That's when I was really in my reading bag. Like normally, like that's why I wear glasses, because like I used to, like I stressed my eyes out because like I was always reading. And yeah, so I would do that, or I'd be in a corner like sketching and stuff or whatever. And so I was in a college prep program, Upward Bound, that required for us to do a certain amount of community service every month. And at first it seemed whack, but like after doing it for a few months, that became like a very huge value to me. And so I learned through that experience how that is an extension of civic engagement and how it goes far beyond the voting. Like basically to me, my interpretation of civic engagement is finding out the different ways that you can be involved in your communities and just making sure that you're being a part of the solution, like not the issue. And that's the simplified approach or explanation that I've given throughout the years to my young people. And that's really helped them develop how they want to show up in that space, whether it be through, you know, policy or community involvement, engagement, you know, so forth. So again, like I said, the young man's video that's attached to the episode is really a good snapshot of how Gen Zers and Alpha and beyond can learn more about how they can play more of an active role, because that's another thing that we hear a lot about when they break down the demographics and things. There's another attachment to the episode that gives like data for the people that like the numbers to show in the 2024 election, like what that looked like in terms of voter turnout. And that constantly has always been like a thing of the community, or just government complaining about how young people are not showing up to the polls enough. And if we would listen to them more and give them more opportunities, like we just mentioned, maybe they would. But then also, we can't just do the opportunity. Like, we have to also know why that's the case. And a big part of that is because our country's involvement in voter suppression, not only just in the past, but even like in the present, like we still deal with that with, there being issues at the different polling spots and votes not being accurately counted and things of that nature. So I know we're going to talk a little bit more about voter suppression potentially later on in the convo, but I just wanted to plant the seed now because that's a part of, in my opinion, why a lot of young people have distrust in the system or just a lack of interest, because there's just so many different parts that go into that problem.
Yeah, and I think part of what it's going to take to get the younger voters or the younger people, younger generations, that's what I'm looking for, to be active is just like that TEDx. Was it TED or TEDx? I think it was TEDx. The TEDx talk of a young person talking to young people about politics and their engagement to politics and why it's important for them to be engaged in some way, shape, or form. And the other piece to that thought is we can't continue. And again, I was just talking about this on Introspective Insight. This episode is coming out. Oh well,
way before this one. Yeah.
yeah, way before this one. So if you listen to this one, so I can finish my thought, it would have came out on what's today?
January 10th.
Today is January 10th, so it comes out on January 12th. However, I was just talking about how we need to put term limits on SCOTUS, on Congress, and SCOTUS and Congress, primarily because there's no reason that we have a 2-term limit for the president of the United States. So we don't have a dictatorship, but then you can, that president can appoint somebody, not vote, not them being voted in or whatever, appoint somebody to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they have a lifetime term. They can die in that seat. Clarence Thomas, that his name. That's his last name, Thomas. Clarence, who's a Supreme Court justice, black man that hate his blackness, is on the Supreme Court ruling in favor of, I think George Bush is who put him in on the Supreme Court. He's still ruling, and he struggles with his identity as a black man because of what he went through in South Carolina, where he grew up.
Trauma.
But he has the ability to continue to maintain the separation of power or the checks and balances in the government for as long as he wants. Ooh. As long as he wants. So he's getting paid graciously. I think the Supreme Court gets anywhere from $250 to $400K a year. And that's salary. I'm not talking about endorsements, because they are paid too.
Child.
I'm pretty sure Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Ellison and all these people that got all this money is in the pockets of those Republican, conservative, or highly conservative Supreme Court justices. That's why they're able to rule on these cases in ways that benefit who's in power.
It's so contradictory.
But I say right. And I say all that to say term limits is needed, because I'm loving what I'm seeing Zohran Mamdani do in New York City. At the time of this recording, he's like maybe 12 days into his he's 10 days in. I don't even know why I'm looking. Like he was inaugurated on the first day of the year. He's 10 days into his mayoral campaign, and he's already greenlit universal health care for young children. So much so that the governor of New York is on some New York is getting universal child care, as if she cared about that ever. So but that's also a 35-year-old mayor of the largest city in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most important city in the world as it pertains to finances
Yeah.
and capital. You have young millennial leadership in a position of power to then lead with our understanding of what politics should be in mind.
But he's also
Democratic socialism.
I'm sorry, he's also setting a new standard too, because that's why the governor is now having to like get their act together.
Shift.
Because you don't want to be out here looking crazy, like, you know.
And you can't lose, like, and that's the other part, going back to you know, like people turning out for voters and things of that nature. You can't lose New York City. So whatever Zoran does,
gotta be in alignment.
She has to back. He is the governor of New York. She not. Because if she opposes anything, so on the campaign trail, of course she could say, oh no, I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm not taxing the rich. Oh, I'm not. Once he won, oh, that changed quick. We're going to tax the rich. We're going to do whatever Zoran wants because I need to maintain my voter base.
Yeah, you got to secure your position. Like, you got to still be strategic about this thing. Like,
I am loving what I'm seeing out of Zoran. And I hope that...
Can we talk about the Jada Kiss reference too? I know you appreciated that. I was just like...
J to the...
I was like, you know what? You better come through with the hip-hop reference. Yes.
We outside. We outside. And again, that comes with him being more closely relatable to us, the millennials, to our generation of kids. Because the reality is we are what they told us we was going to be back then, right now. They just got to get
out the way. Stop holding it hostage.
They got to get up out the way.
Stop gatekeeping. Stop blocking. Stop being a barrier. Your time is up. Thank you. Like I said earlier, didn't I say that? Thank you for your service. That was cute or whatever. Bye. Go and retire.
I'm not thinking of you could thank them for their service. I'm not. You've done enough. Get up out of here.
I'm just saying. I'm
Mitch McConnell, you have passed unalive. Get up out of here.
The shade. Ooh.
Clarence.
The fact your name is Clarence, like, let's just... That lets you know your generation, your relevance right there. Your name is Clarence. Not Claire Ravion. Not Claire Ravion. Not...
Nope. I need the Sharkeisha.
Period. That's what I'm
saying. Lindsey, what's his name? Lindsey, he's the Republican senator that was just on Air Force One with Trump talking about, you know, Cuba is next with the invasion and the take. Y'all need to go. As millennials, we have no problems with Cuba, Venezuela.
I always rocked with Cuba, Brazil. And not saying that Fidel Castro didn't do his...
I went to Cuba.
Not saying he didn't do his dirt, but again, going back to middle school, once I was able to connect the dots and start adding stuff up, I'm like, wait a minute, y'all don't like him because he about that life, because he took over the power of his country. It was like, we ain't about to sit up and play with y'all. Exactly. So now all of a sudden,
Kwame.
Now he an issue because he ain't about to play y'all games. That's what it is. And now we're going to make them suffer and put them under sanctions and impact their livelihood. Like, really? Really, America? That's what we doing?
Kwame Ture. That's his name, right?
Who is that?
Captain Kwame Ture from Burkina Faso.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he is about that life.
Him.
Oh, and I love how he is approaching just using like the prison system to like revitalize like the agriculture and just the economy over there. Like, it's just so like groundbreaking.
And I bring him up because Ibrahim, I don't know why I said Kwame. Ibrahim Toure. I bring him up because his type of leadership is what Fidel Castro was. His type of leadership was the type of leader, any ruler that the U.S. helped overthrow to change regimes.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part.
Gaddafi in Libya.
Yep. Yep, they were liberating their
Mm-hmm.
people and disrupting the
Mm-hmm.
capitalistic power structure or power hold that the colonizers had on Africa or on other
Mm-hmm.
countries, because it's all about natural
Mm-hmm.
resources and maintaining the power through the dollar and
Facts,
all of that
facts, facts,
stuff.
facts.
But again, that's all adjacent to politics and things of that nature. These old white men need to get up out of here.
And let our young people come
These old
through.
white women need to get
Let
up
our
out of
young
here.
people come through.
And the crazy part is, I'm not even saying that the people from, let's say, Turning Point USA, I'm not saying that those young people don't have a space in politics. I'm saying that we need a better average age
Mm-hmm.
in our
Agreed.
politics, so we see a progressive push forward. Like the reason why, oh boy, Neki, what's
Oh
his
boy.
name? Oh boy, that got shot in the neck. What's his name? From Turning Point USA.
Yeah. Kurt.
Dang. Well,
Charlie,
y'all know.
Charlie boy.
Yes, the only reason why he was so powerful is because he was backed by the old white man who believed in his rhetoric.
He had young people showing up for him too, though, which was the gag.
Right, but he debated young people. He didn't debate them old white people. They just financed his push. They financed.
Well, his assailant was a young person, correct?
It was a young white man, at least allegedly. We don't know who it really was, but that's
who's on trial. Yeah,
who's on trial, right? But the point of that is, I'm not saying that he don't have or didn't have, because he's dust at this point. He doesn't have he doesn't have a spot in the government. I'm saying that people like him, who was young, he was what, 32
yeah,
years
he
old,
was influential,
like
whether or not you want to agree with his ideology or not. The man had influence and still does, even post death. Like they just did the what fest, the America Fest, or
with
Nikki.
With old. Don't even get me started with that. But he should be. I'm not saying that people that comes out of Turning Point USA with that type of conservative belief shouldn't be in politics. I'm saying that they should be sitting in seats debating with us, people like us, young in seats, because the regardless of what the rhetoric that he was spewing, that was capitalism. That is what gets him money. Once you get into the seats to make the decision, I don't think that when you have a young body of people that you make the same mistakes that the older people make.
Yeah.
Because you are in the seat and you are seeing all of the other information.
Well, it just brings a fresher perspective. Like you just can't deny that. Like, and it brings a different just approach, just investment in the issue. Like it just is needed to balance things out, like period, point blank.
So to cap on that, y'all get active. Make sure that you got kids, debate with them. The Great Debaters is a great movie. That's one of my favorite movies. I watch it randomly. Matter of fact, I might watch it after this episode. Who knows? But The Great Debaters is a great movie. It teaches you the art of debate. But you can also, you don't have to debate about political things. I think it's good from time to time to debate about political things, but you can debate about
pop culture.
Pop culture, what rhymes with orange? If there's anything that rhymes with orange, you can argue about who's the greatest singer of all time, who's the greatest rapper of all time.
I've asked my young people, what's the best brand of gym shoes? And they went on for days, like defending Nike versus New Balance. And I asked, who's the best female rapper? And oh Lord, they really Lord. But it's teaching them, to your point of what you said, of how to do your research, how to argue your speaking point, like how to hold space for opposing views, all that.
The art of debating. Yep. Which is...
Can we do a recess real quick? I'm sorry, because I need to turn my lights on.
Go ahead, because I was about to
segue.
Recess.
Yeah, so let me get some lights, because I'm fading into the darkness.
I didn't even think.
I was like, I know he see that it's just midnight over here. You was in it. Talk about it.
And I was about to recess too.
Which is perfect.
Seg right. I was about to seg right way into that.
Okay. Just give me the light. Pass the drug.
All right, Sean Paul.
Okay.
Light skinned Sean Paul.
He was, that was my guy. He had all the bangers. Okay. Hold on and give me some water.
Oh.
Now here you go.
So that's a great point. It's a great segue. Talking about just debates and asking kids about pop culture and things of that nature in order to build debating skills. And right now there's a debate going across social media, blowing it up, because we are in movie awards season. We're in award season period because Grammys and Oscars and Emmys and all that stuff is about to happen. It's the first couple in the Q1 of the year. And there is a Critics' Choice Award. That's the first award show of the circuit. And obviously the politics of it, again, this is adjacent to a certain extent. The politics of it is you have to campaign for the people who are of the SAG and the the Screenwriters Guild of America, all these different conglomerates that you pay to be a member of. And if you you have to pay to be a member of the Academy. So if you pay to be a member of the Academy, you also vote on. You get the machine. The machine is now pushing you or all that stuff. So in order to win a Grammy or Oscar or anything like that, you have to basically rally votes, and you have to go on. When we see all this promotion for movies and these actors and things of that nature going out and being on Jimmy Kimmel and the Tonight Show and Saturday Night Live and on the Breakfast Club and all these different things talking about their movies, they're actually building up momentum for award season. Fun fact. And they have to get the people who have the ability to vote for them. So it is a very political thing to win any award because you have to get the people the establishment to a certain extent, the people who run the establishment or have paid their dues to be a part of the establishment on your side. Now that comes with a bunch of different things, right? Because we understand that the establishment is not about Black people, don't care about Black people, don't care about Black art, but they will benefit from it, full stop.
Profit from it.
That's not the profit from it. That's not the debate that I'll ever take because we know that to be true. And it's just irresponsible on the artistic side to debate he's Black, so Michael B. Jordan didn't get the Best Actor award at the Critics' Choice Award, right? But there's a debate going around Timothée Chalamet versus Michael B. Jordan and who had the better acting performance on screen for their respective movies. Timothée Chalamet released
Marty Supreme
on Christmas Day.
Like 2 minutes ago, basically.
And Michael B. Jordan was the star in Sinners. 360+ million dollar original film. And top, I think, 5 all time in earnings for original horror film. But I digress.
And didn't it get re-released in the theaters?
It got re-released. It got re-released because Thunderbolts had the IMAX theater after Sinners, and they stopped showing Thunderbolts because of the demand.
Spent the block on it. IMAX. Spent the block. Who's doing it like that?
So, just again, politics. Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme was viewable by critics starting in September, October. So they had been watching the movie. Oh,
I didn't know that piece of it because I was confused. It just came out. So how could they? So that makes sense. Well, it don't make sense, but it do. Yep. But.
And they said political. So this is the political side of the awards circuit. everybody knows if you release a movie in December, then your movie will be the talk of the town, which gives you an advantage in award season. So they
because it's at the top
so
of
I
their
think
minds, basically.
it's at the top of all of the voters' mind during the award circuit, right? And basically what because I've been down the rabbit hole and I have a bunch of videos saved because I'm making videos. I'm gonna make some videos in this series. But basically, Variety, it's funny because Variety called Timothy Chalamet the Christmas King, the King of Christmas or something like that, because he has a track record of releasing his movies on Christmas, on Christmas Day.
And how competitive can it be?
Would you wonder why? Would you wonder
how does that process go to be able to like have access to do that? Because I would imagine that's such a highly sought after like time frame, you know, because of all the reasons that you just mentioned. Like, how can you secure that? I'm wondering.
Well, I would assume you would have to get greenlit in enough time to then plan out that the movie will be released, because the release date, it's not really, you just need the money to put up in order to do that. And he's had some pretty decent sized budgets, and it's all in the scheduling and I would assume the red tape, the politics behind getting on that day. And he has had some really successful turnouts in terms of movies. Again, there are more white people in this world than black people. It's more white people in this country than black people. So and they control most of the wealth. So dollars respective to like who's on top and who's not on top, who's the next best thing versus who's not. That can be a little skewed based off of just math, right? So the recess, I'm already in the recess, but the recess is that voting in the Academy Awards is just as rigged as voting in the political landscape. And this Timothy Chalamet versus Michael B. Jordan conversation shows that. It also shows how many people are so gung-ho at defending whiteness over the reality that we know that whether or not you feel like snubbed is the right word, Michael B. Jordan is getting snubbed because you know how the politics is with the Academy.
The system is rigged.
Like how the system is rigged, right? Because I'm trying not to go too deep into it. But even with Ryan Coogler, he gets snubbed on Best Director.
He didn't want to play the game.
To be a part of the Academy. He didn't want to play the game.
Yes. What did he say? He would prefer to, when they asked him, he said he would prefer to be a part of like actors unions or just other, for the smaller people versus being a part of the more equitable circles. So because he's not a part of that system, that elitism, but he is seen as one of the elite directors, he can get anything greenlit. He is also on the short end of the stick. That is the same thing as politics. What we just explained in the Timothy Chalamet thing versus Michael B. Jordan, which will by the time this comes out, we will see a lot more of the awards. He had to buy into the system in order to get backed by the system. That's the same thing with the pharmaceutical. Well, all these companies, the pharmaceutical company, the tech company now with Meta and all that stuff, Oracle, TikTok. If you're not paying, you're not playing. Ryan Coogler ain't paying the entity that they want him to pay, so he ain't playing. He not getting the recognition that he should be getting because he's not part of the thing. That's why that deal for Sinners, people were so uprooted about it. They were so mad about it because he's not paying. So why is he playing? But he was able to finagle and get the same, if not better, deals that other actors, other directors got, but because they were a part of the system. So he's doing things separate of the system. So as we are, and I can go into more,
because I watched Mighty Supreme.
I haven't seen it yet.
And I
haven't seen it yet.
I watched it on bootleg.
I was gonna say, don't spoil it. I don't know spoilers. I ain't seen it yet.
I watched it on bootleg. And there's one thing that I am going to say, not on here because this is not the platform for it, but it's one thing that for me takes him out of Best Actor. It was a good performance. It was a good performance. He did that well. But there was one thing that I couldn't get over the entirety of the movie. And the last thing I'll say about that is 27 minutes and 30 seconds in, I clicked the remote to see how much longer this movie was. And I still had an hour and a half
Oh
left.
no! You couldn't wait for
And
it
I'm
to
a
be
movie buff.
over. You're a
I love
director. Like,
Yes, I love movies. And there's a lot of other things that I can say, but there's one specific thing that we'll talk off.
I was gonna say, don't you spoil it. I could tell you want to say it so bad.
Well, it's not it's not a, it wouldn't be a spoiler, but it's one of those things as a director, shame on him. Not Timothy, but he did produce some of the movie. But as the director, which is like he's of a famous pair, like brother pair. Shame on him for allowing that to happen for the entirety of the movie. In that performance. Shame
on you, whoever you is. I don't even know who the director is.
Right. I don't even he's part of this is like one of his first movies separate from
the brother.
Like his
counterpart.
They're famous as a pair, as a counterpart. So but I mean it was a good movie. I just don't see the hype. And again, it's tied to people being a part of the establishment, or as Black people, our inability to stand 10 toes on we really know what's happening. And what's happening is, again, we have Black art that broke so many barriers from jump, and the system is not allowing for the art to be the reason why they're winning. Instead, the reason why they're not winning is because their complete refusal to be a part of the establishment. That's why.
You had a leading man who played 3 roles. And it's the meme for me where it's him smiling graciously. And I've seen it remixed in so many different ways. And I've seen people put on there, like, as a Black woman professional, I know this feeling of having to have professional courtesy or something like that. I know I'm chopped and screwing it, but like, that's real. When you know that you've literally worked twice as hard and haven't gotten the recognition that you have earned, that literally you have earned.
And he did work
literally,
and he was directing himself. Literally, and he was directing himself. Doing both.
He was fighting himself. Like it. I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole.
Yep. And again, that's not even that right there. The 2 roles again is not what I would hang my hat on for why he had the best performance. Because the script was written for him. So he made or broke that movie. Everybody else was supposed to support him well. He made or break.
It was a foundation for sure.
There's nobody else, and Ryan Coogler said that nobody else he felt could do that besides Michael B. Jordan. So that was a recess. All these voting bodies are the same, and it's all baked in racism. And if you have the money, or if you are willing to pay the money to be a part of the establishment, and we have to break that cycle. And the only way that we break that cycle is we get these old, crusty, decrepit white men in their pocketbooks up out of here. That's it. And as one half of this community, it's up to us to be more active in these spaces, because we also have to be active. I understand why Ryan is not being active, but him not being active is also allowing for them to continue to act this way. So if we have some people who don't want to be active, we have to have the same amount of people that will be active, fighting for people like Ryan to come into it under a new body of leadership.
We got to also understand, though, why sometimes people choose not to be active. And I feel like that's kind of the other side of this conversation that we're not really going to be able to get deep into because of time, but just the history of the closed spaces that we've had to be up against. And just going back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation, the history of the voter suppression, and just not only just from the past, but even in the present, how we are intentionally being blocked from these opportunities to have more of an influence in these voting experiences. It has led to a lot of mistrust. And I know that I've even had debates with folks like in my own circle where they've been like, well, why should I vote? What's the point? They're just going to do what they want to do anyway. And it's just like, okay, like that can be true to an extent. However, like somebody going to have to like, push back. Somebody going to have to go up against it. And oftentimes people are not always in the right headspace or just don't have the capacity or the knowledge to know how to do that. So I love how, Dev, you talked about in the recess another way that voting shows up and how this correlates with political voting. And I would have taken something like that if I was like still actively like right now, like in overseeing like my delegation that I had in the past, like teaching them about state government. I would have made this like a whole lesson plan, like to where not only that would have been like a bigger conversation, but after letting them take the floor and lead it about who they believed was the best actor, whatever the case may be, then I would have used that as an educational moment to walk them down history lane and to like share the Malcolm X speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, with them so they could see how 60 plus years down the line, or 60 plus years ago, how the same issues or the political unrest that our country was dealing with are still relatable now. I would share with them the other EDU, the voter suppression episode that we have attached to the episode to this episode as well, where they could see like how the literacy tests were such a big issue. I would share with them about groups of students in the past, like SNCC, who were literally like putting their bodies on the line because down in Montgomery, there was issues with not letting Black folks have access to voting. And I would, I used to actually kind of do a variation of this like in past conversations I've done with teens, where like if I would do like a community fair or something like that, or have like a table set up with like resources and stuff, I would have a jar with M&Ms in it. And then they will come up and be like, oh, what's this? And I'll be like, how many, like, guess how many is in there? And then it would just be like a conversation starter. And then from there, I will be like, did you know that like back in the day, in order to vote, you would be expected to know in order to vote, you would have to have an accurate count in here. And they'd be like, what? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, how would you have any knowledge of knowing how many like jelly beans back in the day would be in this jar? And then from there, like I would have like just different conversations about like, just our history and just how they could be more involved, whatever programming that I had going on that correlated like with that point. So just saying all that to say is that I wouldn't be our in-house historian if I didn't bring up, like how these things have impacted us in the past as Black and Brown communities and how it's still showing up right now, because we can't, in the spirit of Sankofa, we can't talk about, how it's impacting us now if we don't understand first how it showed up in the past. So just wanted to touch on that.
Facts. And I think to round that out, as if it wasn't, to round it out even more, because it wasn't jagged enough, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't square. So don't think I'm saying.
Just get your point out. We get it.
Y'all heard me, class, right?
You tried to clean that up, didn't you, y'all? He tried to clean that up.
Chat, I don't want to be accused of nothing. All right. But it reminds me, what you just said reminds me of The Ballot or the Bullet, the Malcolm X speech, and this idea of one, closed spaces and how we create closed spaces. So the jelly bean was in the jar, jelly beans in the jar, or anything in the jar, buckets, buttons in the jar, or anything like that. Literacy tests, those are all making the space of voting a closed space for the elite, if you will, right? It's multiple things. It's not just the activity, but it's also the systemic rejection of
Yeah,
education.
it's some states
right?
that even used to require an ID. I think that was Texas that tried that at some point in time in
Yeah.
history. A
Yep.
voter ID, like what?
Yep. All these barriers, right? And it brings me to one of the beginning, actually, how Malcolm X started that speech by saying or identifying that, most of the people in these spaces, and he thanked everybody, and he said he see everybody out in the crowd for the speech, and he was like, I even see some of my
Enemies,
enemies.
yes. I was like, clock
Right. And
it,
then,
Malcolm.
right. And then he was like, I would be crazy to think that my enemies are not present in this space. However, one thing that I want to say is, that he started mentioning all of the Christian ministers and how he said that he is a Muslim minister and that, the honorable Elijah Muhammad taught him what he knows and showed him his new identity at this point, his other identity at this point, but how that is who he is. He is also a minister, but of a different faith. But he added the caveat of, but we keep that at
what
home.
that got to do?
Right now, we here
keep
for
the main thing. What my personal beliefs got to do with the fight we got up against us.
And even I'm saying this, religion is also a creator of closed spaces.
It is.
So if we don't know how to keep the separation of church and state, which is something that should always be separate,
but it's political.
We learned about the separation.
Political, though. That's another.
It is so political. But we learned about the separation of church and state and how the government was built on the separation of church and state. Just like the government was built on not being monopolized in terms of capitalism, that didn't last long, right? And there's so many different ways to monopolize in this space. However, closed spaces are created intentionally by systems who don't want each other's certain groups of people speaking. It's easy for us, for the system to separate a Muslim and a Christian because Christianity was pushed upon us by them. Islam has been the Islamic religion, right? The Muslim religion has been, and the Nation of Islam, different things, have been a point of contention because it has been a point of strength. It wasn't manipulated and it wasn't pushed upon us in order to control us. Most people find the Nation of Islam being enlightening, an enlightenment of self, which then goes into fighting back, like how he said Cassius Clay can sing, but he didn't become the world heavyweight champion by singing. He came by swinging, right? He became it by swinging, right? And Cassius Clay also found the nation and transformed into Muhammad Ali. So, or transitioned into Muhammad Ali. So I say all that to say, like, as you were speaking and doing the various, talking about the various activities that you would do at youth, I think that speeches like that from Malcolm X also shows how it is critical for us to show youth that even the smallest thing can create a closed space. Because if I have a closed mind and I can't engage with different groups of people coming from different backgrounds, which means that I can't politic with them. So now my whole political campaign is about getting people around me that think like me. And if anybody who is smart, this is my last part. And if anybody who's smart understands that if you only surround yourself with people who think like you, then you become a pawn of a specific system, or in a sense, you become a part of a cult. So you should always have people that's smarter than you. You should always have people who's going to challenge you, or you're going to end up being Nicki Minaj.
Moral of the story, don't be like Nicki.
Don't be like Nicki.
I was just going to say literally the same thing, and we finish each other's thoughts all the time. So yeah, I was just going to say that, like, you're literally playing into the ultimate plan of the oppressor by feeding into that ideology of the closed space, because that's what they want, is for us not to be unified. So very well said, per usual.
Black nationalism is another thing that he spoke upon. And I think that if you want to learn about Black nationalism, Black people, brown people, white people, a white person can be a Black nationalist. Go listen to that chat class.
He was eating.
Visitors. Go listen.
He was eating.
To
he
the
was
speech.
eating. Oh, it was so good.
Go listen to the speech, because I think similar to what I was saying before we recorded when we were talking about the young ladies Gen Z, Z, who were on the Black Girl Therapy.
Yeah, Black Girl Therapy University, the podcast, the extension.
Black Girl Therapy University. Yep, and talking about the 2024 presidential election, one of the young ladies was talking about how when she was in high school, she would say, if you voted for Trump, you wasted a ballot. And then she ended up saying, like, but then I learned, and then she went on a journey that I wasn't following. I completely lost focus because I didn't know what she was trying to say. However, that's cool because she's engaging in the conversation. And what I would have done if I was her youth leader was tell her that it's okay to tell people that you didn't vote for the right person, especially if you are of the same community, in the same district. Everybody in your we just heard Miss Cam, talk about how if you got somebody that was outside of your service area as a candidate, you would be disqualified. So the only way that you win is if the people within your district, within your service area, if it's city council, it will be within your district unless you are an at-large seat.
And we're not at-large here. Yeah.
So there's no at-large, right? So that means that you should, as a voter or as a youth, say, if you don't vote for Ms. Cam, you wasted a vote. 100%. And that is what Malcolm X was saying around Black nationalism. Black nationalism is political because you should only be putting people in seats that represent the needs, the wants, aspirations, and the demands of the Black people living in Black communities.
And it's about us having control of how our economy, grows or does not, for, that matter. So
100%. Turning Point USA is a white nationalist organization. They only speak for white people,
which makes sense.
And white ideals.
Makes sense. That's your lived experience, right?
Which is okay, right? Okay, we deserve a Black nationalism. Shoot, I might.
Well, what Malcolm was also saying in the speech was like, what sense do it make for someone that does not live here, that's not from here, coming in and weighing in on decisions that they're disconnected from, or having the ability to profit off of, like something that like you shouldn't be able to. Like, it's literally common sense.
100%. And we should practice Black nationalism a lot more, because the most profitable communities in this country are Black and brown. I didn't say the highest income communities. I said the most profitable cities are Black and brown. And if you don't believe me, go look up where they're building cooling centers, AI centers in this country. I didn't say the people profit. I said the most profitable communities. Why are they the most profitable communities?
Why is gentrification a thing?
It's because they don't have the political power to push back, which means that we can then go into your communities, create overpass, create highways, create throughways through your communities, and we don't get reprimanded for it. We can go into your community, break down, kick you out of your house.
All type of red lines, just red lines all over the place.
Red line you, break you down, build it back up, and move somebody else in. Now you homeless.
And then increase what the property value is, or just the cost of living, just all of that.
Which then pushes out the other people indirectly, directly, indirectly, right? So Black and brown communities are the most profitable because we are also the most ignorant in terms of politics. So let's get more active.
Let's get our young people
And
more active. Let's start educating our young people sooner. Let's start breaking it down so that way, once they do become voting age, they are able to play more of an active role in the trajectory for themselves and their communities.
And millennials.
Well, I consider that to be people who are, I consider that to be, it's on the cusp, like, you know.
Yeah, but we gotta be explicit. We gotta be loud.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can.
I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke. I was.
But the ones in the back, they might not consider it because they still on the fence. They ain't sitting down.
Make it plain. Make it plain.
You know what I'm saying? Millennials, city council, mayorships, governorships, senatorships,
representatives.
Let's get representatives, House representatives. Let's school boards,
county boards. Okay, I'm done.
Active. County board, county legislator. Let's get active. Because the only way that we push people like ICE out of our cities is if we are actively writing policy. But yeah, get active, get the kids active. There's a lot of entities, I'm not going to say one, I have a day job in one, that partake in government on the youth side. If you flip it and you put that in the search bar, you'll be able to find stuff. May your searching be profitable. But there is a lot of ways in which you can get active in youth. Oh, I was about to say it. There's a lot of ways you can get active in government, whether it's sponsored by your city government, your local city government, statewide legislature, or you can just create your own group and schedule to go to your state.
Start your own youth advocacy board. Start it.
Yes, and you can do that, and it's not hard. And I guarantee you, especially for the people out in Rockford, Chicago, because y'all are some of the only cities. I'm pretty sure it's more, but I'm ignorant to this. But y'all are the only cities that have like aldermans in y'all areas. Like we don't have aldermans in New York, but I think DC has aldermans. Chicago and Illinois, they have aldermans. Who knows who else? Comment and let us know what areas have aldermans. But if you started a youth advisory board and then you went to your local alderman to try to get funding or see where funding are, I'm pretty sure you can find funding. And if you need a fiscal sponsor, I'm sure that you can find a fiscal sponsor somewhere to support those endeavors and things that nature.
I'm currently partnering with the local government here, our city, and with a youth advocacy board. So if little old Rockford, Illinois can do that, then if you're from a bigger space, I definitely encourage you to start the conversations with your city officials or maybe even state level to see what that partnership could look like and what the funding looks like, because there are, to Devin's point, opportunities out there to do so.
Emphasis on little old Rockford. But you couldn't see my face because the camera.
Wrap it up on that note.
But actually, you do rapper. We're not doing a third segment. Y'all got enough. We went 13 minutes over what we normally do, but it's all good. It was a great conversation. I hope y'all got out of it. Remember, in this community university, we teach based off of story and resources. We don't. If you're looking for a how-to guide, unfortunately, that's not how we rock. That's not how we roll. Because we can't tell you how to do you. You can only tell you how to do you. So we tell stories. Y'all take the teachings. Y'all leave what don't apply. Y'all take what does, and y'all going to make it work. You feels me? That's all I got. Cam, let's close us out. Because, you do it best. You do it best.
All right, y'all. Like Devin said, this was another dope conversation. Hope that you all were able to learn a lot and walk away with some resources that you'll look more into. Hopefully, we ignited something in you to incorporate this more in your youth development work if you're not already doing it. And if you are, I love to share resources and to build community around youth advocacy. So please make sure that you inform us in the comments and on our different social media platforms. And with that being said, class has dismissed and your syllabus has officially been remixed.